Today we're going to talk about the 5 core strategies that you can use to cope with the breakup that you didn't want. So in this in-depth guide, you're going to learn why it's always important to start with the no contact rule, how it's important to set both global and local goals with regards to the Holy Trinity, why you need to find a magnum opus goal, why it's important to start crafting your own sphere of influence, and finally, basically, why you are responsible for your own happiness, not your ex. So let's just jump right into it. There's 5 ways, in my opinion, that are the best approaches to cope with a breakup that you did not want. And the first strategy really revolves around the no contact rule. Now, if you aren't familiar with the no contact rule, then you have probably been living under a rock. I mean, even George Lucas, the founder of Star Wars, has heard of it. In fact, a few years ago, he gave an interview, and to quote Mr. Lucas, he says, "And it really does come down to a simple rule of life. And that rule is when you break up with someone, the first rule is no phone calls. The second one is you don't go over to their house to see what they're doing. The third is you don't go over to their coffee shop and check up on them. You just say, nope, gone." See, I told you, the creator of Star Wars knew what a no contact rule was. Of course, our version of no contact is slightly different. Here's our official definition. The no contact rule refers to a period of time where you cut off all conceivable communication with an ex after a breakup. The intent of this tactic should not be used to make your ex miss you, but instead should be used to rebuild your own life so that you begin to outgrow your ex. By doing this, the no contact rule can have the added benefit of making an ex miss you. So the key word there being outgrowing your ex. So one of the biggest aha moments that my team and I had in the last few years came when we were studying our success stories. Now, if you're unfamiliar, from time to time, we will interview someone on our podcast who went through our program and successfully was able to recover their relationship with their ex. So I personally became obsessed with trying to figure out and understand what set the successful people apart from the unsuccessful ones. Turns out it has more to do with their worldview than anything else. The people who did well with their exes got to this place emotionally where they literally didn't want their ex back anymore. They had outgrown them. That's not to say they wouldn't take them back if the opportunity arose. Many of them clearly did. Otherwise, they wouldn't have come onto the podcast. However, I think the key distinction is that these individuals knew that they would be okay. They knew that life would go on. This too shall pass, so to speak. So really, that's what we're all about here at Ex-Boyfriend Recovery. It's about helping you achieve this mentality. And it really does start during a no contact. By limiting your contact with your ex in this post-breakup period, you keep the main thing the main thing. It allows you to focus on the Holy Trinity, which just happens to be our second main strategy. So strategy number 2, the Holy Trinity, global and local goals. If you're not familiar with my Holy Trinity concept, it's pretty simple. Essentially, you divide your life up into 3 distinct categories in which everything can fall into: health, wealth, and relationships. Then you work to try to maximize those aspects of your life. So on our website, we actually have this graphic that breaks down like what falls into each category. So like, for example, with health, it's not just workouts, but it's also sleeping more, finding a stress outlet, sort of mental health based things. For wealth, it's not just money, though money is probably the biggest part of it. It's also spiritual wealth, social capital, getting a degree, education, things like that. For relationships, it's not just lovers. It's also friends, family, teachers, counselors, therapists, even a pet can be included in that. But I don't actually want to talk about the Holy Trinity today. What I'd like to do is talk about a failing that most of our clients have when it comes to the Holy Trinity. Namely, they don't set any global or local goals. So what are global or local goals? Well, global goals are large goals that will take years to achieve. Local goals are the smaller steps that help you achieve your global goal. So for each aspect of the Holy Trinity, you must first set a very large global goal. I briefly touched on this concept in the past and used myself as like a guinea pig to illustrate the global goals. So for example, my global goals when it comes to health is to complete an Ironman race. For wealth, I want to find a way to make $100 million. For relationships, I just want to be present and be a good husband and father for my family. Now, generally speaking, It's not a good global goal unless it seems sort of impossible to achieve. And here's perhaps the most difficult thing for people to wrap their heads around. Once you achieve your global goal, if you do get lucky enough to achieve it, you immediately set another global goal even higher than before. So circling back around to the whole reason this sort of video is being filmed, too often I'll work with individuals only to find out that they haven't really considered any of this for their lives. Or they'll literally talk themselves out of it, claiming, well, I could never achieve that. They defeat themselves before they even try. And it's easy to understand why. A lot of times people who come through our program are anxious individuals. Their entire life is revolved around this relationship with this person. This person just broke up with them. They're devastated, but they don't really have their own self-identity because their identity is so wrapped up into the relationship. What we're trying to do is we're trying to help people recognize what their identity could be.